Today I'm down in Los Angeles taking a look at the all-new next-generation Honda Passport. Yes, all new because everything has been redesigned. And they've given it a dash of retro in the design. Let me know what you think about the look and especially this orange paint job, which I think looks fantastic and really works with the orange accents all the way around the model. Let's take a look at the front end here first. Now, one of the big things to know about the Passport is that they've switched up the trim line here. So instead of starting with EXL, it starts with RTL. We then have Trail Sport and then Trail Sport Elite. So instead of an Elite trim without the Trail Sport bits, you get all the Elite things on the more off-road capable model. And you'll really notice the off-road capability up front with these big orange recovery hooks up front. Honda says these are rated for twice the GVWR of the vehicle and have also given it a much blunter front end, shorter overhangs than before, and really more of a mini truck look all the way around. Logically, the Passport continues to be related to the Pilot, but aside from the wheelbase, Honda says that there's actually not as much relation as you might think. We certainly get a different look up front with these really distinctive headlights here, full LEDs standard. If you get the Trail Sport trims, then we get these orange DRLs rather than the white ones. Now, there are still a few faux things going on. This hood scoop, not actually hood scoop, it's just a trim strip. So if you're worried about those sorts of things, know that that is not functional, but obviously it gives you a place where you probably could add a functional hood scoop aftermarket yourself. Coming around to the side, you'll notice the extra width and the extra length in the styling and the proportions and these big 31-inch all-terrain tires. We're going to get 31-inch tires available in the Trail Sport and Trail Sport Elite. 275/60 R18s. 18-inch wheels are standard in every trim. And even though they're not beadlock capable, they do kind of give a nod to that beadlock look that a lot of people are interested in. Honda has said this is going to have the most complete accessory catalog of any Honda model ever, and I believe it, and they've brought along a few accessories that we're going to take a look at in a bit. You'll notice the really upright stance, the really boxy proportions that we've seen in the Passport for a while. That really makes this one of the most cargo practical entries in this segment. When we take a look at most of the two-row mid-size SUVs or crossovers, however you want to categorize this, a lot of them are based on three-row vehicles, and then they really severely chop the back end instead of giving us that vertical hatch in the rear. And Honda has done the opposite. They've really accentuated the hatch, made it even more upright than in the related Honda Pilot, and that gives us class-leading cargo capacity back here, 44 cubic feet behind the second row. That's the big reason to buy a Passport over a CR-V or a RAV4 or a Forester or anything in that category, is that not only do you get a more comfortable vehicle with a V6 engine, you also get significantly more cargo capacity and more passenger room inside. Of course, if you fold down those second row seats, then you have an even bigger cargo hold, and all of that upright boxiness really adds to the cargo capacity and cargo practicality. I'll go ahead and close the hatch so you can see the tail design. Also, nice upright hatch there, so taller folks shouldn't have any problem. That's an advantage to the high roofline in that really square hatch. You can see that this has definitely a mini truck vibe to it and a few nods to the first generation Passport way back when. Passport is stamped into the steel there. We then have recovery locations on that 2-inch hitch receiver. This is not going to be standard in every trim, but you're going to find it in Trail Sport trims. So if you get the RTL trim, you can add that on as a dealer installed accessory. 7-pin wiring harness right over there. And lots of underbody protection. There's a full skid plate up front for the engine and transmission, and then another skid plate for the fuel tank. Let me know what you think of the design. I really kind of dig this kink right here just behind the rear doors. That's what's giving me the first generation Honda Passport and maybe a little bit of a Isuzu in that design. Now over here we have a fully decked out Trail Sport Elite trim with a bunch of different accessories. Over here we have the black lettering and the Passport stamping there on the tailgate. And then really cool touch on the inside, you can get an accessory table from Honda. We've seen this creeping into a number of off-road vehicles in the industry. This one's rated for 44 pounds as a shelf here, and in case you're wondering, yep, it does function as a table. You can actually take it out, extend the legs. A cool touch with the recovery hook is that Honda has designed them to collapse into the vehicle in the event of an accident, improving crash safety. We can't show you what's under the hood, but we can talk about it. We have a naturally aspirated 3.5-liter V6 engine mated to a traditional 10-speed automatic transmission. Of course, Honda's iVTM4 all-wheel drive system is on board as well, and this is the latest version of iVTM4 that can send more power and more torque to the rear axle across a broader range of vehicle speeds and power demands. V6 engines are getting increasingly rare in this segment. We don't find one, for instance, anymore in the Atlas Cross Sport, and we don't find one in the new Nissan Murano either. Even if you expand out to the luxury segment, which is not a direct competitor to this, you still won't find a naturally aspirated V6 engine in something like a Lexus RX. All new Passport means all new Passport interior, but Honda has not forgotten what people loved about the current Passport, and that is how incredibly roomy it is inside thanks to the boxy profile. The upright roofline means if you like sitting really high off the ground, even at 6 feet tall, I can have this seat almost all the way up in its tracks and really give this more of a, truck-like driving position. Driver's seat is pretty comfortable, but only two-way lumbar support even in the top-end trims, and no adjustable lumbar support for the passenger in any trim. Let's move to the back seat because we do find more legroom than we had before. And that means another reason to get the Passport over some of the smaller options is going to be people with families, larger children, taller adults in the back. Check out that headroom. There's lots and lots of it back here and absolutely gobs of legroom. So this is the kind of vehicle where you could pretty easily put not just one rear-facing child seat, but maybe 2 or 3 of them across the rear. The rear bench is about the same width as the current Passport, or so it seems. I haven't been able to get official dimensions on hip distance or shoulder width, but that was always an asset for the current generation Passport, is just the size and the width of the passenger area in the back. Now let's take a deeper dive into the cargo area while we're here, because again, class-leading cargo capacity, and there are a few things to know. We do have a spare tire. It's over here on the right side of the cargo bay. It is a temporary spare tire, standard. You'll see that fits completely under the load floor, while you also have room for something like a Honda generator on the other side. So if you like to take a generator with you camping, that's going to be a good option. Remember that there's no large power offboarding capability here, so we don't have a 2 or 3 kilowatt inverter like you might find in a hybrid. Now you might be thinking to yourself, hang on, Trail Sport is the off-roady trim, so what's going on with the temporary spare tire? That's what I was thinking too, but Honda does have an answer. You can fit a full-size spare tire in the back. They've designed that cargo slot not just for generators, but also for a full-size spare. You can, interestingly, have 2 spares if you want. You can have the temporary spare and the full-size spare, so if you really want that backup plan off-roading, that's going to be great. Or you can reclaim that storage well for whatever you might want to store under there. This position definitely strikes me as a little bit 1970s, and it is going to be a dealer-installed accessory. It involves the strapping mechanism, which has actually a pretty simple to release seatbelt style strap there. That's kind of a cool touch the way they did that. And of course, you're going to eat up some of that storage space on the side, but you have the full-size spare tire capability, and Honda says that even with the full-size spare back here, it should still be class-leading when it comes to cargo capacity. You'll probably be somewhere around 40 cubic feet even with that full-size spare in there. Now, if you want both spare tires, you're probably going to drop down to maybe about 35 or 36 cubic feet, somewhere in that neighborhood. Now let's take a look around this Trail Sport Elite trim. Over here on this side, you'll notice again, no adjustable lumbar support for the passenger side, but we do have some really cool carpet textures for those floor mats. I do like that look a lot. I also like this brown and charcoal interior color combo, but the big thing is the much more modern interior design that we find in the 2026 Passport, including big new screens that are standard. This is the standard Google connected infotainment system. You've seen this before in the Accord and in the top versions of the Pilot, but here it is going to be standard in every trim, and that's a really nice touch. We also, of course, have smartphone connectivity, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, etc., and a full LCD instrument cluster. Now, this vehicle has had its battery connected and disconnected and discharged a whole bunch of times. That's why there are all those error messages there, so don't pay any attention to that. Just pay attention to the design. Pretty similar to what we find in some of the other Honda models where there are still a few LED gauges on either side. The steering wheel, this is the latest sort of truck look steering wheel from Honda. You can see it is a round design. Heated steering wheel button right there in the middle. The controls for the adaptive cruise control over there on that side, media functions over there on the other side, and then paddle shifters right back there on the back of the steering wheel. The seat memory buttons for the driver, they're over there on the driver's side door. You can see that we have that two-tone design going on for the door. Soft touch materials on the upper and midsection of the doors, harder plastics down lower, and then bottle holders and storage cubbies everywhere. Big storage cubby right there in the door. The seats themselves, they don't have a terribly aggressive bolster design for the seat bottom cushion, but the side cushion, or the back cushion, that definitely has a more aggressive bolster to help keep you in place if you are doing some more rugged off-roading. Now going back to the center console here, we have a physical power and volume knob there, engine start-stop button sort of strobing there. Big air vents, Passport stamped into the dashboard, kind of a nice touch. Multi-zone automatic climate control with heated and ventilated front seats, and separate controls for the rear seats right there as well. Moving down from there, there's kind of an interesting little cargo slot. Not quite sure what you'd put there, maybe the vehicle's key. 2 USB-C ports, one that interfaces with the system, one that's charge only, a single wireless charging mat. I would love to see a twin wireless charging mat set up here. The topographical map, look, that's unique to the Trail Sport trim, so you won't find that in the RTL. Of course, we have the Hunt and Peck shifter that was seen in other Honda models, and an orange toggle for the drive mode selector. I kind of like the orange accents that we find here. They haven't overdone them. They're relatively subtle compared to some Subarus. Automatic brake hold, electric parking brake, and 2 absolutely enormous cup holders there. Those are really, really quite large. So if you have those big Nalgene bottles, shouldn't have any problem there. And a lot of storage space behind that in that center console storage well. Because unlike something like a Grand Cherokee, this has a transverse engine design, so there's just a bit more storage space available in the center console. That's leather wrapped, of course, but you'll notice a little bit more discreet here on the design, so no orange stitching on the center console like we do find on the seats. And then, of course, over here on the dashboard as well. On the passenger side, there's another little storage nook. Definitely big enough to put some of those larger smartphones right in there. But the glove box appears to be a little on the small side. I don't think you'd be able to fit an 11-inch tablet in there. Moving up to the ceiling, we find a big panoramic moonroof right there. There is Travis luxuriating in the rear seat area. Looks like you have some pop-up shades in the doors there. Those are not standard, but you will find them in this trim. And this one also has the aftermarket, or should I say dealer-installed accessory of that big roof rack right up there. I do like the look of this panoramic moonroof. Let's see how wide it opens by default. It's one of the kind that actually goes in, which is nice because it doesn't affect the functionality of that roof rail, and it definitely opens pretty wide. You can actually open it all the way back to there. That is a definite nice touch. On the sun visor front, let's see, they do extend to the side, also cool. The rear seats get a center armrest with 2 big cup holders right there. Thank heavens, the shoulder belt comes out of the middle for the middle seat position rather than out of the ceiling, but those rear seats don't recline, right?
Nope.
If you get the Trail Sport trim without the Elite upgrade, then we get more fabric inserts, which I think I like a bit more actually than the leather we found in that other option. I would love to see what this combo could look like in brown. So we get the fabric inserts on the dashboard and on the doors. That's a very modern feel to it there. And fabric inserts on the seats as well. So the outer portion bolsters, that becomes fabric. That's probably going to breathe a little bit better than just an imitation leather seat would. A little bit more orange striping in this model, more accents right there, and orange accents on that center console. But we don't have the same floor mats in this model. This one has the all-weather floor mats. As often happens, we don't have pricing yet, but we do know that it's going on sale in early 2025. It's likely to start in the mid $40,000 range, so expect it to be a bit more expensive than the Passport that is currently on sale. And I think that's completely fair because this is a very different kind of Passport. It has everything that people have loved about the current generation Passport and then takes all of that to the next level with better looks, more off-road capability, more interior style, more interior comfort. And I really appreciate the fact that it didn't shrink or become less practical. That big boxy profile in the back, that's a big asset to the Passport when you compare this to even something like a Grand Cherokee, which has been relatively practical over its run. It doesn't have the kind of cargo capacity or cargo practicality we find here, simply because it's just not as big and as square in the back. Let us know how you feel about the design. Did they do enough here? Does it look a little bit too much, for instance, like that very first generation Passport from decades ago? I think that is all kinds of fantastic. And I love the fact that they've combined the Trail Sport and the Elite trim together into the Trail Sport Elite, so you can get the rugged off-road capability or the rugged looks, whichever one is of interest to you, but you also don't have to give up things like the ventilated seats and the heated steering wheel and those other luxury touches that so many shoppers have been looking for. Of course, that is going to be the most expensive version of the Passport, and you can bet that that very top-end trim is going to be more expensive than a fully loaded Passport today. We don't know how much more expensive, but it's definitely going to be more than the existing model. On the other hand, you can bet it's going to be a lot less expensive than the Grand Cherokee, because that Grand Cherokee has become fantastically expensive over the last few years, and this is certainly going to be easier on your wallet. Let us know what you think about that down there, and of course stay tuned, because we should be driving one of these soon, and we should know pricing information closer to when it goes on sale. See all of you later.